Welcome. It's on you, Kenny.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is the first of, we hope, many of these broadcasts. Um, call it PDI, which is pretty damn interesting. And what this is sexual. Talking about some things that we find pretty damn interesting, right? So this kind of birthed itself out of a friendship, out of just talking, and I'm pretty sure a conversation about Peggy McIntosh around a whole bunch of hard science.
That knapsack, man. That good knapsack.
My name is Kenny Johnson. I am a PhD student in the Department of English at Florida State University.
My name is John Wosu. I am a graduate student in counselor education at Georgia Southern University, working on my education specialist degree.
And my name is Lisa Covington. I'm at the University of Iowa in the sociology department, getting a PhD.
Yeah, so I think this first thing we want to talk about, everybody's been talking about it, but we want to address the situation with Colin Kaepernick. And we've been getting a lot of media coverage, and a lot of people have had a lot of things to say. And by no means should you take what we say as the gospel. We're just basically talking about what we think about this situation. And obviously, you have a literature person, a sociologist, and a counselor, right? And so we hope to bring some varying viewpoints on this. So let's see. We'll start with Lisa. Like, what do you make of this whole situation with Colin?
Could you say that again, Kenny?
Please repeat the question.
Yes.
I was just saying, like, what do you make of this whole situation? Like,
I mean, I think that Colin is really taking a stand right now. He's really saying something with his actions. And I was just telling my students the other day, like, how many of you know the Pledge of Allegiance, right? And they all started to say it. And then I asked them, like, well, how many of you know what the words mean or thought about what the words mean? And it was like nobody said anything. So it's really symbolic of the fact that he's using his critical thinking skills to analyze and discuss the flag or the national anthem and all of those symbols that represent the United States of America. So I think he's really questioning a lot of different things that folks haven't really thought about, but they just do on autopilot. Like, oh, we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, or we stand for the national anthem, all of those things. So it's just like, we really have to think about what these symbols mean and how do we interpret that as people of color, as Black people in the United States, and as Black people who are a part of the diaspora.
I think it's really interesting because our country's national anthem, right? A lot of people, don't know the history of the national anthem. They hear, it was at the end of a battle, and he wrote it, and the flag's still there, and all this kind of stuff. And it is super patriotic when you think about it, right? But we only see one verse. Right? We only seen one stanza, and there are three stanzas, and it gets progressively and exponentially more racist as it goes on, right? They will never talk about the third stanza because the third stanza is basically like, y'all slaves, you're going to be slaves, you need to be slaves, right? And so, not even to go down the long black hole that is, the miseducation of the Negro. But I think that, through this, it should be a window of opportunity for people to kind of dive into what do these things mean. First of all, what is the whole national anthem, right? Because like you said, we only see one verse. which is very interesting because I'm not sure. Like I know at FAMU there are 3 verses to our alma mater. There are 2 verses at the University of Florida. There's 3 verses to Lift Every Voice and Sing, and we usually sing all of them when we sing it. Sing the 3 stanzas
Not
of
that
the
we
national
said voices too.
anthem. But I'm saying,
Yeah,
like, why would we not sing that?
Yeah, I personally I didn't even really know about the other verses of the national anthem until this moment in time. Like I just didn't, because we never really covered it. But it was really important for me to learn the Star Spangled Banner. Like I remember at the Boys and Girls Club, like one of our people there, one of the staff members there, went down the row of every child to see who knew the Star Spangled Banner. And one kid knew it, and he pretty much was glorified for knowing it. And I think I was in 2nd or 3rd grade, and from that, I remember that as a critical moment in my life, because like after that, I made it a point to like know the Star Spangled Banner and stand up and sing it every single time. And I mean, I think this moment really, really just speaks to the love-hate relationship that I have with the country, that many people of color and many people in non-dominant groups have with the country. And we just don't talk about that division. And if you are in a dominant group, specifically if you're a white person, whenever this stuff comes up, whoever brings it up brought it up, right? It wasn't here until that person brought it and made it. Like racism hasn't been a thing in this country until Colin Kaepernick set for the national anthem.
Right.
And that is the approach that we have with this conversation, and it speaks to the miseducation not only of the Negro but of like the United States, right? It's of the whole world, right? For me, I think that just looking at folks' reaction to this, it says so much. It for me, I just see white people being very avoidant when it comes to talking about race. Like they'll find anything to talk about other than race. And I understand why, because I guess from a subconscious level, it puts in jeopardy your position on the hierarchy. So I get that. Like it just talking about it all. Like I think we all subconsciously know that if our race were, like dollars, white would be the most dollars. I think that we know that on some level. So I mean, I just like, I think it's frustrating for people to just kind of just dismiss, I guess at best and at worst, just completely condemn what Colin Kaepernick is talking about. So yeah, man, I really applaud him for what he's doing. I think also it's interesting that my man is biracial. I think it's interesting that he's biracial. I think it's interesting that Jesse Williams is biracial. I think it's interesting that a lot of advocates who are fighting for issues on race and racism have a lot of different influence from a lot of different places. And I think that for people to kind of see that and be like, you're less black, even though clearly, folks are calling Kaepernick, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? He's getting the same slurs, he's getting the same treatment, maybe in a different way because of, all the ways that we experience racism and white supremacy are different based on who we are and how we navigate the world. Like I get that. But he's fighting that same fight. And it kind of reminds me of that episode of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air when they they went out for the frat, and then Carlton has like the soliloquy at the end where he's like, man, I'm running the same race and jumping over the same hurdles, and why you trying to trip me up? Like, I mean, it's another manifestation of white supremacy. So
yeah,
instead of attacking the people who are attacking Colin, we have people attacking Colin who are, and he's fighting for this anyway. But yeah, that's what I'm on right now. So.
Yeah.
What do you think, Kenny?
I don't know. It's so hard to be in the moment because on one hand, you really want to break it down and analyze the structures of power at hand and all of that. And then on the other side, you're just mad as hell. Like, and you just really want to like talking about him, right? Because like so many people have said, every response to this is basically proving his point, right?
Right.
And so
right.
you have all of these people who are calling him all of this type of stuff, and it's like not making him want to like stand up for the pledge anymore, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not making us want to say the pledge of allegiance, making us want the stars and the stripes to be this American. And it's crazy because the problem of the 20th century was the color 21st. Seemingly further century, the problem of the 22nd century is probably going to be the problem of the color line, right? And so a lit person, and so we had to take, Americans. American Lit 1, I absolutely, because it was a survey, but of course we started at the beginning of America. So it was
Are you going in and out, bruh?
learning Savage by whoever wrote all of Savage. Can you hear me better?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's the last thing y'all heard?
You were talking about lit.
Oh, go ahead. I heard the color line was gonna be the problem of the 25th century, probably.
And, yeah, and lit. You were talking about taking lit.
I was thinking, in American with in North America by people like, Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin, all these things that just kind of really portray the Native Americans and, those who were enslaved as, just savage, completely ridiculous savages, right? And it's funny because we'll talk about the Declaration of Independence and we'll talk about the Bill of Rights and all these things. And we never literally talked about what the Star Spangled Banner really meant. Like, we get some background about it, how it was created, of course, Francis Scott Key and the flag and all that kind of stuff. But, like, we literally never sat down and dissected what the Star Spangled Banner meant. And I think that for that to be our national anthem, like, you know what I'm saying? It's crazy that one was chosen because, what was it? My Country Tis of Thee was supposed to be the national anthem, I believe. And so I'm just trying to figure out, I would be very interested to know why we lean towards the Star Spangled Banner instead of My Country Tis of Thee. But I said all that to say that the biracial thing really jumps out at me as well because you have this guy, he's not black enough to be with the black kids, Rodney Harrison, or he's not white enough to be with the white kids, Lena, or whoever else, Taylor Swift, or whoever else thinks that, right? And so it's really interesting that these voices are the ones that are really out here chiseling away at this big block of hatred that we have in this country. And for black people like Rodney Harrison to come out and be like, oh, we ain't black. And we're like, dude.
I like the same skin color.
What are you talking about, bro? Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's hard when you're out here trying to fight for a group of people to which you do, and some of them are fighting. You know what I'm saying? They fighting with you, and it's a lot of people that were like, "Oh, I respect like how he went about it. How else would you have wanted him to go about it? I'm very confused. If you don't believe in what the
Right.
Pledge of Allegiance stands for, then you don't say it. If you don't want to stand up and acknowledge the flag, then you sit down. That's just, easiest way he could have protested all of this. And I think that it just goes to show that, our humanity is always a point of contention. Anything that we wholeheartedly believe is not something that should be tolerated. It's not palatable, right? And so our community needs to understand how to even rally around these cries because here we are saying Black Lives Matter and we're protesting police brutality. But when we said really agree with that, well, what do you agree with?
What did you
You know
say?
what
I didn't catch
I'm just
that, Kenny.
I'm saying, like, people Kenny. I'm saying, like, people are out here and they're like Black Lives Matter, but when he says it, we're
Oh,
like, oh, I don't necessarily agree with how he did it. Like, I don't think that there's a bigger stage,
right.
a bigger platform than for this all-star quarterback to kneel down at an NFL game. Like, there's not many people who would have done it.
But
And it takes, yeah,
can we talk about how he went from sitting to kneeling?
yes,
Because I really think that could possibly change the message. I mean, I know we could say like it's the same thing, but I don't know. I think that sitting was much more powerful, and taking a knee is more like, when I played basketball, that's what we did when somebody was hurt. Like, we're paying attention, we're being respectful, we're hoping for the best outcome for everybody. And I think that
what I thought.
right, did you? Because I just think the message has really, I mean, the idea is still there and people still hate him. He's still calling Kaepernick. But if we look at it deeper, right, like it's there's a little shift.
There's some appeasement there, and
Absolutely.
Because I think, what is the end goal? What is his end goal? What is our end goal? And if we expect to be living amicably in the country with white people, how does that determine how we interact and what decisions we make? And for me, I see, because like for him to even like get to that point, I think he met with like a former Army Reserve member or something like that, or like someone who was affiliated with the military, and that was their conference. That was them meeting in the middle. Like, I feel like we're always the ones who are kind of moving closer and closer towards what is supposed to be the middle, but really it's the far right, which is extreme white supremacy. And I think that conversation, there's not a space for that conversation to be had. And as soon as one is created, like with him sitting down in the first place, that door is jammed shut as soon as possible. So,
Right.
I mean, I want everybody to get along. Like that is my ultimate goal, is connection. Like that's me 100%, bless you, as a counselor. And at the same time, it's for us to get together peacefully, and we can't do that without addressing all of the many things that we've been through and that we're still going through. And for him to sit down, I think it brought attention to that, while him taking that knee kind of softened that blow. And then I think the other piece is the media did a great job of shifting the narrative in the first place. They immediately made it about the military. They said, my man is sitting immediately the military. Right, and it had nothing to do with that. It had absolutely nothing to do with men serving, who are, by the way, fighting wars for rich people, right? And they're people who are poor, and whether they're white or black or whatever, whatever the case may be, it's not the sons and daughters of upper and middle class individuals who are going off to war. So that's a different conversation. But at the end of the day, the media did an amazing job of just basically saying Colin Kaepernick sits and therefore hates America, therefore hates the military, therefore hates veterans. And I think it was a strategic move on his part to in an attempt to redirect and also try to get some people who were immediately blown off board by his stance, not even his stance, but by his actions, to come back into the conversation, come back into the fold, and maybe talk about it in a different light. I don't know, but I definitely think it does soften the initial impact, which is this country is racist. It's built on racism and white supremacy, and the anthem that you ask for us to salute, you know what I'm saying? That's super duper racist. Like that's the take home point, and no one wants to have that. Well, a lot of people would rather not have that conversation for obvious reasons.
Right.
That last point you just made, like the anthem, like, and if we sang all three verses of the national anthem, there'll be a lot at the end because they will be very embarrassed. And I will have my large collecting all of the white tears in the white guilt because you could actually feel it by the time we got to the third stanza, right? But also, in thinking about the city,
Oh,
we have to think about that symbolism, right? And we have to historicize that because um, sitting is gonna connect straight to that protest culture, right? Of sit-ins and peaceful
Right.
protests, right?
Exactly.
But when you kneel, when we think about kneeling, we think
respect.
about hate and we think about and respect, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Observant type of respect, almost like who are
Mhm.
you kneeling? And I think that, um, so I do think that that symbolism has changed what's going on, and I think it's because people are getting to him a little bit,
Yeah.
um, and it's making everything a little bit more palatable for them. And I think that sometimes you just need some stuff that tastes bad. Like you have to taste it. We taste it. You know what I'm saying? We taste it every single day.
Yeah.
Um, and so
Mhm.
if it was up to me, I would not. I would. I mean, hell, you already sat down. Like, ain't no use in kneeling now. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what's the point? But and I
Right.
don't know his reasons for doing it, obviously. But going back to that, the media narrative with the military. Oh my God! Like, I could not even believe what was going on. They were like, "Oh my God, he's so disrespectful to all of these." And of course, it was that immediate entitlement of of white America to speak for all of the damn military. And they were like, oh, all veterans are pissed off. And all the black ones were like, hold up. Actually, we're not.
Right.
We didn't get in the military because we wanted to protect America. We got into the military because I dropped out of school and I got into the military so I could pay for school. I got into
Right.
the military so I can get out of my broken home, get out of my terrible crime ridden neighborhood, basically to, make a way for me in society. I didn't get into America because I'm super patriotic and I love this country and everything that it stands for. Because most times these wars that we're fighting have absolutely nothing to do with our freedoms in America. That's so. That narrative it blew me, and I was so glad that so many, not even just black veterans, were like, "Hey, actually, that's not true." Even the white veterans were like, "I fight for people to have their freedom of speech.
Right.
Like,
Right.
that's what I fight for." You know what I'm saying? So it's those people who claim patriotism, and it's another thing that I want to kind of pose to y'all. What do y'all think about policing patriotism? What do y'all think about that concept as it relates to this situation?
Well, I mean, I think that before we go to policing, I think I have to process that a little bit more. But I was thinking about what John said as far as the media. And didn't
Mm-hmm.
Malcolm X say like the media is the most powerful entity on earth because they can control the mind of the masses, right? Like, so if we think about how it became military focused, and maybe that's because Labor Day's right here, or if that's because of whatever, I don't know, but it definitely is powerful. But as far as policing patriotism, I mean, isn't that the whole point of the of when you when people take citizenship classes here in order to get like United States citizenship, like you have to know certain facts about United States history. You have to take a test to show when the Bill of Rights was written or whatever. So I mean, I don't know as far as like what that means for those of us who are born in the United States, because we don't have to take those. I mean, I guess we do in school. We have to take those tests in history, but yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Kenny, you're on mute, by the way. I think that's a good point. I think that from day one, so much of what we're doing, I guess, is conditioned, and it's more intentional than we like to think or that we realize often. But I guess from that whole socialization process in a way is policed, and there are some things that are,
Right.
some things aren't. But in terms of policing patriotism, what came to mind for me is just how so many people I think were calling him un-American for his stance, for his decision to sit before they even knew why he was sitting or why he chose not to stand. They went straight to it's un-American of him, and they immediately tried to other him as something that's not American, and I didn't really appreciate that. And I think that happens all the time. It's no different than when when you're around your boys. And I think when I first started wearing like my suits European cut, I caught hell for that, right? And that was
Oh,
like homeboys trying to
listen,
behavior.
listen. Boy, there is something about sartorial, the whole sartorial thing, that the black community just does not get with. I don't even want to get on that, but you wear an Italian cut suit, they be like, "What you got going on?"
Right. Right. And I think just the whole idea of like being policed for behavior that is outside of our norm of expectations is so common. And
Right.
people, I really hate the phrase, like kind of live and let live, those types of phrases, because we are like no judgment or like I don't judge, you know, to each their own. Like we're constantly judging people, and we're constantly engaging in ways that ultimately lead to controlling the behaviors of others. And when we deny that we aren't doing that, that's what makes it most dangerous. But I mean, that's what really came up for me in terms of policing his patriotism, because you have this definition, or like an individual might have this definition of what it means to be a patriot. And when someone doesn't fit that definition, then they're automatically not a patriot. And most of the time, I think whiteness is a part of patriotism anyway. So even and I think just by default, many of us are not patriotic enough because our skin is too dark. So I mean, I
Right.
think that I mean, same with Gabby Douglas, same with all of these other people who we've been policing. This is just another example of us trying to make people fit in, who are trying to really be themselves or speak on behalf for groups who have different needs and different identities than the dominant majority group. So that's a great question though. Like, what is your take on that?
Um, Pretty much what y'all have said. I mean, like, first of all, what is patriotism? Like, what is patriotic? Like, is there like a Likert scale? Like, is it, strongly agree, strongly disagree? Like, you know what I'm saying? Even, how do we quantify
Right.
patriotism? How do we define that? Is it just loving the country? Is it, being outwardly boastful about that love? Like, what is patriotism, right?
Love.
You know what I'm saying? And so, like you said, they immediately was like, he hates America. And it's like,
Right.
but just because you criticize something doesn't necessarily mean you hate it. It means that it could possibly mean that you love it so much that you want to see this, you know, you want to see this completely be obliterated so that we can continue to grow and be better, right? You know what I'm saying? So I mean, that whole thing calling into question one's Americanness, especially when what he did was so American. Like, to speak up for a group of people who is otherwise rendered voiceless. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, to
Mm-hmm.
be on such a stage in a truly American sport, to be an American superstar in this American sport, and to protest that and give voice to this group. Like, how much more American can you possibly be? Fight these wars because you want this group of people to be liberated from the hands of the oppression of this group of people. Like, how can we kind of impugn his Americanness when he was being American? Like, that is what America stands for. You know what I'm saying? So this whole idea of protest, like policing that, like, I mean, we do too much policing in America anyway. Like, we police everything. We police clothes. We police language. We police everything. And so it's not surprising to me at all that they would police his Americanness policed his First Amendment right to free speech. But it's absolutely disheartening because it was so American at the root. And I think that people don't even understand, like, if we start boiling things down to a bottom line level, right, what he did was American because this is what America does all the time. Whether other people ask them to come protect them or to fight for them or not, America goes over there and does it because they feel like they do. Like, so Rodney, even if he wasn't, he can speak out and say black people need to stop being killed. That's okay. That's okay.
Man, we mentioned a little bit about what you said. Like you went out a little bit.
Of course.
but I rock with your ultimate point. What I took away from that is yo, whether or not you ask us for our opinion, we're gonna tell it to you. Whether or not you ask for our help, we're gonna give it to you in a way that is beneficial to us. And then when it's framed that way, Colin definitely did something very American platform in a way that benefits him and the people who go through similar experiences that he does. Even outside of standing up for what you believe, and fighting against oppression at home in this case, he literally took advantage of his opportunity. How much more American can you be? What also really I think is a point that we should spend some more time on as a nation, and more specifically as Black people in communities, is the NFL stance on this whole situation. I haven't heard any support from an official standpoint when we talk about the NFL. In the NFL, a company that is, man, I think roughly 68% of their employees are Black. Roughly 68% of NFL players are Black. And yet, I haven't heard anything officially come out in support of what Kaepernick is doing. I've heard a lot of people say that he has the right to do it. I've heard a lot of people say that they disagree, but not in an official capacity. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
I mean, I don't think. Well, what did they say? They said that the standing for the flag or whatever, it's when they do it out of respect and something. I think that's what I saw on ESPN when they were talking about his stance. Is that right?
They basically said, you have the right to stand or sit. They basically pulled a Cam Newton.
Okay, so I mean, can we expect the plantation owners to promote reading? You know what I'm saying? Like, how can we really? I mean, if we want to talk about, like, William Roden talks about $40 million slaves, right? When looking at Black athletes. So if we think about professional sports or the NFL in particular as an entity that represents a plantation, then possibly we can see why they haven't supported Colin, right? Like, it makes a lot of sense. Like, you can't support the runaway slave. Like, you can't support Harriet Tubman. You know what I'm saying? You can't support Nat Turner, because if you support them, then all of them are going to do, act out or do whatever they want. And we can't brainwash folks into thinking, they should just be picking cotton, or i.e. playing with a ball in their hand, right? Like, if you don't have a ball in your hand, then you're not doing what you need to do. So, I mean, I don't really think, I'm not surprised that the NFL hasn't said, yo, we support Colin or whatever. But I do appreciate the fact that I know when he was in San Diego, that there were people outside of the stadium saying, I sit with Cap, right? Like, I really am glad that people are showing support for him, whether it's, those people standing outside the stadium to fifth graders who were like, you know what do these words mean? I'm not standing for that. I'm not pledging allegiance to a country that doesn't pledge allegiance to me, right? I mean, I think that those are all things that came to mind when you said that as far as the NFL.
Yeah, I just, if they do anything outside of staying silent, um, if they come out and say that they support not
Cam.
if they support Cap, um,
Except for Cam.
no, not him. If they come out and they say, oh, we support Colin Kaepernick, this is this is our rule, and what are we supposed to say? Like he has his right to do either or. You know what I'm saying? Like I would be very, very, very surprised. However, I'm very interested to see how the police department and their threat, because it was a threat. I don't care what you say. That was a threat. To stop working and to stop protecting people at these games, like if they don't take action against him or deal with him or put him over their proverbial knee and spank him and give him corporal punishment.
Right,
Like,
because it goes back to that policing, right? It goes back to that we have to police what you're thinking and your actions. And if you don't fall in line with that,
right.
mm-hmm.
And so I'm just like, what does that tell us about the state of police? What does that tell us about, like, the grandeur of the police, the police brutality and bravado in America to say, hey, we about to stop, get this nigga in check. Like, wait, hold on. He's been doing this for a couple of days now, and he's got the media into a frenzy, and
Right.
we're not gonna do our job to protect and serve if y'all don't have him stop talking about us. Interested to see now what the NFL does in that situation, because I believe that had they not said anything, they were gonna say, well, that was in our laws, like, that was in our rules and regulations. He could do it, and it was gonna be a very Cam Newton statement, and that was gonna be the end of it. Now that the police have gotten involved, I'm very interested to see what they're gonna, and I believe they're gonna come out and they're gonna tell him like, you need to chill. Like,
Man,
I believe that that's what's gonna happen.
I would really love to see what happens. Well, I got my popcorn ready. So we have about 5 minutes left, and I think, I mean, this is our first pretty damn interesting convo with the PDI crew. Um, and I think, for me, it'd be a dope way to end the show with just like one word that comes to mind, and then, explaining, I guess, what thoughts and feelings are attached to that word. And for me, I, the word that's coming to mind is conditional. And just this conditional type of, I guess, acceptance. And what brought up for me was when you were kind of talking about how the officers were like, hey man, maybe we should just not work, maybe we should just not protect y'all. And I sense like this conditional type of acceptance, protection, whatever it may be, from people who are in the dominant group to those who are in the non-dominant group. And I mean, it for me, it's like, if you, for instance, it's like they said they came for, my neighbor, I didn't stand up, or like they came for the Jews and I didn't stand up, like that type of thing. Where ultimately, if acceptance is conditional and protection is conditional, then ultimately the thought process has to be that under the right conditions, they'll come for you too. And I think that's pretty dangerous, and it's a harsh reality for me to face, because if you feel like you're immune to that, right? I think a lot of people feel like they would never treat us like they treat those people, right? And
Right.
that's part of the issue that allows this kind of thing to continue. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that's a perfect example of just like that conditionality, where it's like, as long as you're doing what we say, as long as you're behaving according to the way we're policing you, then you'll be okay. But
Right.
what happens when someone changes their mind, or when you do something that falls outside of that box? And I would like me. I think I would like people to think, just think more critically about that. What happens when I am no longer acceptable?
Mm.
I guess I'll go. You just said one word. Can I have a phrase?
Sure. You can be great, brother. However, you got to be great.
The phrase, because at first I had entitlement, but then I came with like, and it's really not a complete thought, honestly, but the irony of respectability. Just thinking about um, how they are condemning him for this unpatriotic act when in reality it is super patriotic, and also for so many um, for so many of the black community to kind of scold him in a way for um, for speaking out against these things, even though it is the hotbed discussion at this moment in our society, right? This idea of oppression of minority groups, police brutality, and killing unarmed black people and other marginalized groups of people, right? Um, so there's this irony at play, and the irony is very different depending on the lens that it's coming from. But still very rooted in this idea of respectability politics. And ultimately, I feel that him going from sitting to taking a knee is that respectability politics. Like, it's
Yep.
totally there. This, they were like, hey, that burned the roof of our mouth. You need to blow it off before you hand it to us next time. And I believe that he's blowing the steam off of that soup so that it doesn't burn him in the mouth. And every time I called it here. I called it here on PDI. If he'll be standing up before the preseason is over.
So preseason's already over. How many?
Well, before he gonna be standing up.
Before the end of the season?
Yes, he'll be standing up. It's not gonna carry out.
You called it. You called it, man. We'll see. I hope not, man. I really hope not, though.
I really, in my heart of hearts, I really hope that's not what happens. But going from sitting to that knee, like, that was a big thing. That was a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
As small as it may seem to, that was a huge thing. And when I saw him kneeling, I was like, wait, hold up, wasn't he sitting the first time? Like, what's going on? Like,
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not ready for him to stand.
right.
That just messed my whole. Yeah, I'm not ready for him to stand, but it could happen. It could happen.
I'm gonna hope for the best on that one.
Yeah. So what's your word, Lisa, or phrase?
My word. I'm gonna stick to the one word. Blackness.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that a lot of times when protests happen, whether they're on a stage as big as Colin Kaepernick's, right? Like, whether it's that or if it's even folks blocking the freeway, I think that sometimes what is missed is the reason behind the action, and how blackness can be erased because the dominant groups often try to usurp the narrative and create a narrative that has nothing to do with the fact that, once every 28 hours, a black person is killed in this country, right, by the police or others. So I think that speaks volume. And I think it would be interesting to refocus the dynamic to looking at blackness and what this means. And it kind of got to what y'all were talking about as far as like being biracial in America and how Jesse Williams, Colin, like they are two recent examples that we have of biracial men kind of taking a stance as black men, because they'll never be viewed as white in this country. They're black socially, and I think that their acceptance of blackness disturbs people who may not appear to be biracial or people who are completely black, right, in quotes. So I think that makes a big difference because you can't. I just don't see how you can say like, oh, well, he's not black. Well, what are you doing? What are you standing or are you sitting? Oh, you're standing. Okay, you just collecting your check. Okay, your first million's not going to community organizations. You know what I'm saying? Like, how can
for the kids, man?
What'd you say?
Right.
Yeah, you ain't giving no backpacks to the kids, man.
Right. It's like you just run on that field and collect your check, and you
And be
just
a good nigga. Be a good nigga. That's it.
right. So I mean, like, what? Like, how dare you police him and hit the stage, right? Like that. How dare you? So I mean, I think that's kind of where I'm at is looking at refocusing to blackness and what that means for us.
Nice. Man, another biracial individual, Trevor Noah of The Daily Show, doing great things too. But yeah, I think this was dope, man. I'm looking forward to the next one. We didn't really get to talk about Lena Dunham tonight.
We going to. We need to do that later this week.
So I mean, stay tuned for that because that's gonna be a really interesting conversation. But man, hey, y'all were great and just keep being great. And to everyone who ends up watching this, please share your comments with us, give us your feedback. We appreciate all of it. It'll help all of us become better. All right, man. Peace.
All right.